If one always sabotages abundance to return to scarcity, what can one do to change this?
This is a big question. It's a very common pattern, and it's not only one pattern. There are several different patterns that can come in here. One of them is that we can have a kind of ceiling. Uh, the way it tends to work is that you feel inside yourself, for some reason you probably learned unconsciously when you were a child, that you only deserve so much goodness. And so sometimes what happens is if you start to make more money, you start to kind of fill up your goodness quota. And then if something else good happens to you, you can't have too much goodness because, well, I don't know, we don't really know, but it's just like that would be really dangerous. That's not allowed. Something terrible will happen, or I'll be punished or something. And so you kind of adjust your quota. Okay, if my happiness is going up, my money's got to go down to adjust it. So that's one way that people do it. But in my experience, far more significant is what I call karma. So karma is a big topic and it's very, very much misunderstood. But I'll give you the essence of it now. So really karma relates to ways that we have behaved in the past. It might be in past lives, if you believe in past lives, but we can also look at it in the past of our own lifetime. And fundamentally, it's based on the principle that the energy that you put out is the energy that you receive back. So we've all done things in the past, and especially in past lives, that we are not proud of, things that were harmful to other people, whether it was just being mean or doing things that disrupted somebody else's life. Most of us are extremely familiar with those kinds of behavior. The thing is that puts out an energy around you, and that energy kind of comes back to you, like a wave when it hits a wall and then the wave comes back. It's a bit like that it hits a sort of karmic wall and it comes back to you. And what you'll find is that very often it's other people who sabotage you. And if not, then you sabotage yourself. What's actually happening is that your inner consciousness is that still has that harmfulness in it. So sometimes you harm other people. Very often, if you've harmed other people, what happens is you also harm yourself. You harm the essence of who you are. You harm your inner being. So let me give you an example. Let's say that you're really critical of yourself. That's a very powerful way to sabotage your money. It's like you're just beginning to do well and you start to criticize and criticize and criticize. You make yourself feel wrong. You make yourself feel bad. Of course, that's going to sabotage your money energy. The problem is that criticism of yourself is a very negative behavior. It's very destructive. Imagine if you criticize a small child all the time. It's going to be a disaster for that child. So why would you be any different from that? Why would it be good for you to criticize yourself? So if you don't like being criticized by other people, I can guarantee you that you and your soul and your being don't like being criticized by you, which is usually by your mind with its constant barrage of negativity. And so we have to recognize that this way of treating ourselves is not okay. It is not an expression of love. It is not an expression of abundance or generosity, and it's against our true nature. And when we start to recognize that, and when we go through processes, I teach processes where people can actually resolve karmic patterns, which have often been in their lives for lifetime after lifetime, very destructive patterns that are now being directed towards themselves. When you release that pattern, it creates more room for your heart and for your soul and for your being to expand, and it creates more room for abundance. And so you don't sabotage yourself so much. So if you have a feeling of not deserving or not being worthy, which will often come from having actually done some fairly nasty things, maybe in this lifetime or maybe in another lifetime, when we're mean to people, it makes us feel like we don't deserve kindness at a subtle level. So these karmic patterns build up. And that's what causes you to sabotage yourself, because you actually don't feel good about yourself. When you start to resolve those, you feel better and better about yourself. You feel at peace with yourself and accepting of yourself. And when you can be like that, you can actually create room for abundance in your life. So there's a very direct relationship here between self-sabotage, the way you have treated other people, the way you treat yourself, and the potential for abundance.